Man, oh man, am I going to get it for the title that I'm going to be putting on this video. I can already sense the dislikes racking up. I can feel your anger in the comment section, and I'm still only just recording. So before we begin, I think that it is important for me to mention that if you are right now playing Pokémon Sword and Shield and you are enjoying yourself, good on you, and continue playing the game for as long as it is fun to you, because I can understand the fun parts of Pokémon Sword and Shield. That's not what this is about. This is about the fact that a lot of the other stuff around those fun parts has been extremely frustrating for me. And that is what I'm going to be talking about. So again, I want to make sure you understand, look, life is too short, okay? Don't let anybody tell you what video games you're allowed and not allowed to enjoy. If anybody's ever trying to tell you that, that person is just flat out wrong, okay? If you're enjoying Pokemon Sword and Shield, continue to enjoy it, continue catching your pokes. I hope you get all the shinies that you could possibly want. I hope you get all of the perfect IVs that you want for your team, and I hope you continue to enjoy yourself. I really do. Okay, because I know that even after I record this video, I'm still going to head into the wild zone, and I'm still going to catch some more pokes, and I'm still going to do some Dynamax raids with friends, because there are a lot of things to enjoy in this title, but there's also a lot of stuff around it that makes it a less than optimal experience, and those are a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today. Now, I want you guys to understand something. I did not title this video as a review, despite the fact that I finished the story. And that is because I don't consider finishing the story to be an adequate point of Pokemon Sword and Shield to really make a review video. I think in order for someone to make a review video of a video game like this, you actually have to engage in the competitive side of things. You have to engage in actually breeding Pokemon. You have to engage in getting perfect IVs and really min-maxing your team. And that is something that I simply have not done. And at this point in time, I'm not sure that I'm going to be investing all of that time to do those things, which is why I'm not calling this a review, but more like an opinion of all of the time that I spent with the game so far, which is currently coming up on about 45 hours or so. I kind of just finished the story, and like I said, I'm going to go into the wild zone, and I'm going to do some more of the endgame content, and maybe then I'll do another video talking a little bit more about that. But I really wanted to get a couple of thoughts out there. Now, it is important for me to give you guys a little bit of background information about me so that you know, because I know that there might be a couple of new people coming in to watch this specific video, and I want you guys to know where I stand when it comes to the Pokemon franchise. I never watched the show, so I don't have any kind of nostalgia. I mean, sure, everybody's watched a little bit of a show, an episode here and there, you know, in the middle of your Saturday morning cartoons or something like that, but it's not something that I've actually followed. So I've watched maybe a couple of episodes here and there, but nothing really that, you know, like a lot of people actually follow the anime. They know all of the things that are happening. I don't, okay? I never played the Game Boy games either. Not even the Game Boy or the Game Boy Advance. I've played some of the 3DS titles back around the time where Pokemon Go was kind of like close to launching. I remember I played X and Y, I played Omega Ruby, I played Sun and Moon, and I played Ultra and Sun and Moon, but I never really finished any of those games. Some of them I played significant chunks, like I think Omega Ruby, I don't know, I played up until I got a bunch of pokes to level 40. I don't really remember. It's been a long time ago, okay? So in a lot of ways, I'm kind of an example of a newcomer to the franchise, although it's not completely a newcomer because I understand kind of like the basics of how the Pokemon combat works. But in a lot of ways, you know, I've never really gotten to a point where I've been breeding Pokemon, where I've been trying to get perfect IVs, where I've been trying to do all of these other things that a lot of people really engage in when they come to a Pokemon game. At least a lot of the hardcore fans, the type of stuff that they engage in, that is something that I don't have a lot of experience in. And I want you guys to be aware of that from the get-go, okay? So let's get started. Usually with my videos, I like to go through visuals and sound first. And this is, when it comes to Pokemon Sword and Shield, this is like, oh my god. It is very much a technically subpar game, as far as I'm concerned. Like, look, you can say that it doesn't bother you, that's fine. It doesn't bother me that much either, but when I'm trying to give my opinion on something, it is important to bring it up. So the visuals aren't really that great. And I know that a lot of people, they like to look at the tree in the wild zone because it's the same tree and it looks terrible. The textures are really low resolution. that didn't really bother me that much. I don't know why that bothers so many people, but that tree, I was just like, whatever, I play a lot of Japanese games, and you see this type of stuff happening in a lot of Japanese games. Like some of the titles that aren't like super popular out here in the West, you see this type of stuff happening a lot. Like you'll see games on PS4 that look like they came out of PS3. This is actually something that, again, to me, is not something that bothers me. And I do like the art style. I like the overall art style of the game. I think a lot of the Pokemon look really good. So, I think the art style does a lot to kind of make up for it. So the visual fidelity itself doesn't particularly turn me off. What turns me off is what I always say about video games. You don't have to bring the best graphics, but if you don't bring the best graphics, then you got to bring the best performance. The problem is that Pokémon Sword and Shield doesn't do any of those. It doesn't bring the best graphics, and the performance is pretty bad, particularly if you're playing in multiplayer. Dude, you're talking some really, really low FPS in this title. Like, I'm not exaggerating here. I'm saying like maybe sometimes you might even drop into single-digit FPS, which is really bad. But not just that. Sometimes even simple things like whenever you encounter a trainer in the middle of one of the routes that you do while you are going through the main campaign, like the flash screen that pops up where it's your face, the face of your trainer and the face of the trainer that you're about to fight against, the frames dip there too. They dip below 20 FPS, and I'm just like, dude, what is going on? And again, it doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's a turn-based game. So, the fact that your performance is bad, it doesn't necessarily hamper your gameplay, but in my opinion, it is just something that shows that there's a lack of effort. And this lack of effort isn't something that is just happening on Pokemon Sword and Shield, because this is something that I've noticed back from when I played the other Pokemon games that I played on the 3DS. I always thought the performance there was pretty bad too. The performance on Pokemon games has always been terrible. And this is not a problem with the limitations of the console either. We'll get into that in just a couple of minutes. But before, let's just briefly touch up on sound. So you still have Pokemon sounds from like the Game Boy era, which really doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't know if this is something that people really like because it's somehow nostalgic for them, but I just think that, like, look, dude, it's 2019. Can we like upgrade these sounds? At least make them, like, it can still be a sound. It doesn't have to be, the Pokemon saying, like, for instance, Pika Pika. It doesn't have to be that, but just make it a sound that's a little bit more adequate and not a Game Boy sound. I don't know. Maybe that's just a minor gripe for me, but, that's going to be depending on each person. Then there's the fact the game doesn't have any voice acting at all. For some people, this is a plus. For a lot of people, this is a minus. I think that in certain cutscenes, there definitely should be voice acting. I think it would make more sense. I think it would be cooler. And simultaneously, I also felt like there was a little bit of a poor localization, particularly whenever it comes to... There's one of the gym trainers that sings, and whenever I read the lyrics of his songs, I'm just like, wow, you guys just put zero effort in like localizing this in a way that makes sense. Now, for some players, maybe this doesn't matter. Maybe you just don't care. Maybe you don't even care about the story, which is fine, but it is something that I have to critique when I'm talking about this game. At least it was something that definitely affected me in a negative way because it really just hampered my immersion in the whole thing. And I know that a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh, but this is just like the old games. We're kind of like, what's the big deal? Like, if people like the old games, they're going to like this one too. And, there's limited budgets and all this. It's like, look, limited budgets? Son, you're talking about a franchise that is bigger than friggin' Star Wars. Let that sink in. This is a franchise bigger than Star Wars. And when you're talking about, oh, but it's on the Switch is a limited console and all that, you're talking about the same console where you can find titles like Breath of the Wild? Limited console, my friend? Super Mario Odyssey? Skyrim? Doom? Wolfenstein 2? All of these games running at a better performance than Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm sorry. There's no excuse, because you can come up with the excuse, oh, but it's a small studio and yada yada. No. You don't have that excuse. This is one of the biggest entertainment franchises of all time. There's no money excuse here, okay? If they have a problem, throw money at it, fix it. That's all I got to say when it comes to that stuff. But anyway, I really wanted to see this one Pokemon game through because I always seem to start playing Pokemon games and then I don't finish. And this time I was like, no, this time I'm going to play it all the way through no matter what. And at the end of the day, the stuff that I mentioned above, while they are things that I consider to be problematic, these are not necessarily game breakers, so long as the gameplay loop of the game is solid. And the gameplay loop of Pokemon Sword and Shield is actually fun, and it can get addicting. You know, you're catching up your Pokemon, you're trying to min-max your squad, you're trying to come up with, you know, the TMs that you want to learn for a specific Pokemon. You're doing the raids, you're capturing new Pokemon, you're capturing Gigantamax Pokemon, you're figuring out how the Dynamax system works, which is also fun. So there's a lot of really fun stuff when it comes to the core aspects, you know, and trading Pokemon with your friend. And I actually do like the dual game aspect that they do. I know that some people are probably going to be against that, the more antisocial people, but I think it gives you an objective, like, you know, because you're playing with friends and you're like, oh yeah, I'll get Shield and you get Sword, and then I'll trade the Pokemons that you don't have to you, and you'll trade the ones that I can't get to me, and so on and so forth. I think that actually builds community, and I think that's fine. And I know this is probably like, this is not really something that's going to be particularly news, but understand that for someone like me, I'm still kind of like a newcomer to the franchise, so I'm trying to take a fresh look at all of this. So again, the gameplay loop of the game itself, I find it to be very fun, particularly with the Wild Zone and stuff, and I'll get into more detail on the Wild Zone a little bit further ahead. But the problem becomes that the structure of their campaign is beyond atrocious, and it hasn't evolved at all. Because like I said, I've played X and Y, Omega Ruby, and Sun and Moon, and I think Sun and Moon were the ones that actually broke the mold a little bit. But like I said, I only played a little bit at the start of those games, so I don't have like, you know, massive experience with it. But I do remember that Sun and Moon used a different system from the gyms, and I remember liking that system a lot more than the gym system, because the way the gyms work, for those of you that never played a Pokemon campaign, yeah, the two of you in the back, is like, look, when you start the game, they're like, hey, here's the 8 gyms. You're now going to go on the trainer challenge, and each of these gyms is going to specialize in a particular type of Pokemon. Some of them will be the grass gyms, where you will want to bring a fire Pokemon because it's going to destroy everything in one hit. Then the other one's going to be the water type gym, and you want to bring an electric Pokemon because it's going to destroy everything in that gym. And that's kind of the way it goes, right? You got these gyms that you're supposed to be fighting through. All of them are going to specialize in a specific type of Pokemon. You bring the opposite type, and you destroy those gyms. And you do this 8 times. And that's kind of like the structure of their campaign. And it's boring because in the mid sections of that, when you're not doing combat with the gyms, you're either going through a route that takes you to the next gym, through where you will find some Pokemon and you'll find a couple of trainers that you'll battle. And then there's like some story exposition in between. And when it comes to the story, like, look, I'm not going to get into spoiler territory here at all. As a matter of fact, just like the background footage, it's probably just going to be me in the wild areas mostly. And it's like the story was forgettable. To me, the story was completely forgettable. As a matter of fact, I just finished the story and I can barely remember what the hell it was all about. All I know is like, hey man, go do these 8 gyms, fight the champion and win, and you're now the champion of the game, and yada, yada, yada. As a matter of fact, one of the final fights of the game basically plays itself, which is one thing that I really, really hate. But basically in that fight, if you don't do anything, it doesn't matter. You're still going to win. You're still going to you know, be able to defeat the enemy and do whatever you have to do next. Again, I don't want to get into spoilers for people that actually care about the story, but like one of the final fights, the game just plays itself, and it might as well be a cutscene. That thing might as well be a cutscene. I was so disappointed. And then there's like this concept that they do in every single Pokemon game where you have your rival. Think of it almost as like a Goku versus Vegeta type of thing, where you're Goku and your rival is kind of like Vegeta. So he's always going to try to fight you, and you both want to improve and all of that, which would be great if your rival wasn't a goddamn idiot. He's just an idiot. I almost think that the rival is just in the game to make you feel good by repeatedly pummeling his Pokemon into the dirt every time that you battle. I mean, you're talking about, you pick whatever Pokemon you pick, he's going to pick the type of Pokemon that is the weakest against your Pokemon every single time. So he's always going to have a massive disadvantage when he fights against you. But not only that, he always brings out the same Pokemon every single time. Every single time, every single fight I've seen that guy do, even if it's not against me, even if he's my ally, because in some portions of the story, your rival becomes your ally. And it's like, he always brings out the same sheep-looking Pokemon every single time. and that Pokemon gets pummeled into the dirt every single time. And I'm just like, what is the logic behind this? Can we get a mod for this game where it happens the other way around, where your rival actually picks the type of Pokemon that is strong against your Pokemon, so that maybe you can actually evolve as a player instead of just like pummeling him into the dirt every single time you fight? It's like, I really just don't understand. And people have always told me, Rurikon, the campaign of Pokemon, that's not really the point. Campaign's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be like a tutorial, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But before that, you know, as we were talking about the story, there's certain sections of the story that really drag. They really do drag. There's a lot of sections in there where I could just tell that they were trying to artificially lengthen the campaign. There's one particularly egregious point at the end where I was just like, there was this one dude who had a key, so I go up to him, and naturally, as you solve everything in Pokemon, we had a Pokemon battle, and I beat him, and then he's like, but no, I'm going to run away. And I was like, oh no. So he runs literally like 3 meters in one direction, and he just stays there. And I'm like, really? So then you go up to him again, and he's like, now I'm going to fight, and now I'm going to win. And I was like, oh no, not this again. So you fight him, you beat him into the dirt again, and it's not even close. And then, and I'm not bragging, like the game is designed in a way that it's just easy. It's not because I'm good, because I suck. I'll tell you right now, I suck at playing Pokemon. There's no doubt in my mind. If you're watching my live streams on Twitch, you'll know that I suck at playing Pokemon. But it's just the game is just mega easy, right? So I beat him again into the dirt, and he's like, but now I'm going to run away again. And he goes inside a telephone booth. Like, not even, he didn't even break line of sight from my character. And I was just like, what is this? Like, and there's a bunch of situations like that throughout the campaign that I was just like, okay, I get it. You're trying to artificially lengthen the campaign, but this is just a really, really bad way of doing it. And then on top of everything, the campaign locks your progression as a trainer. This to me was potentially the worst aspect of it, because it's like, look, if I could just like go into the wild zones and have fun and not even have to worry that much about the campaign, that'd be one thing. But no, it's like, no, the number of gym badges that you have is going to dictate the level of Pokemon that you can pick up. So that very much limits you as a trainer. So you can level up your Pokemon to Kingdom Come. Imagine you can actually go and you can probably level up your main pokes all the way up to level 100 or whatever the cap happens to be, because I don't know. You still wouldn't be able to capture like a level 30 Pokemon unless you've beaten a certain gym. And that was just like, because again, it wouldn't even bother me that much if you could just bypass the campaign. Like if you had the option, like I don't even want to do the campaign, it's boring. I just want to catch Pokemon, evolve Pokemon, do the IV stuff, the breathing, all the stuff. Focus on the aspects that people actually care about. It would not even be that bad. But, you know, because of the fact that you can't do that, you have to do the campaign. You eventually have to stop whatever you're doing in the wild zone, and you have to force yourself through the campaign. And again, one of the arguments that I was talking about earlier is how a lot of people like to say that, oh, the campaign is just a tutorial to prepare you for the end game and competitive portions of Pokemon. And let me tell you, if that is the case, that's even worse, because this campaign did a terrible job at teaching me anything that matters. For starters, whenever I was playing the game, I opened up like a sheet online that had, I'm not saying like a sheet as in I was cheating. I'm talking like a sheet of information that said all of the type weaknesses, because I can't memorize that shit. I have the memory of a goldfish, okay? I don't even remember what Psychic is weak to right now. And I just finished playing the game just now. So I can't remember all that stuff. I have a terrible memory. So I just had that so that I knew what the typing advantages were. But I did not look up what the type of Pokemon were that I were fighting. So I would always be like trying to figure out, like I would look at the Pokemon and I'd be like, is that a grass type? That looks kind of like a grass type. Let me try using a fire attack. That's the way that I kind of played through the game. Because remember, I'm a newcomer. I don't know most of the Pokemon. I don't know any of the new Pokemon. I know some of the Pokemon that I've seen in other games, but I know very, very, very little about the typings and all of that stuff. So that's the way that I chose to play the game. And the way that one of the things that made me feel like a lot of times is like, You're just supposed to have like some kind of an app on your phone at all times so that you can just look up, okay, what is the opponent sending out? He's sending out a Gardevoir? Okay, then I probably want to bring out, wait, what are fairies weak to? Steel. I probably want to bring out my Corviknight to deal with that. It kind of feels like that's the way they want you to play, because whenever they tell me, oh, this trainer is bringing out this Pokemon now, I look at the Pokemon's name and I'm like, dude, I have no fucking idea who the hell that is. Whatever, dude. You might as well say you're bringing out Donald Trump. It would be the exact same thing to me, okay? I'll still end up using this Pokemon and figure out what things it is weak to. Now, I do know that this game, as you attack different pokes, it eventually starts revealing their weaknesses in the game. That's a good thing. And I know that a lot of people are against that. I'm not against that. I think that's a good thing. But, you know, that's not even a thing that bothers me that much. It's just I'm trying to explain to you guys that the story itself is a terrible tutorial because it doesn't really teach you anything meaningful, and your opponents are usually pretty much predictable. Like if you're fighting a gym, you already know, oh, this is the water gym. Most of the people in here are going to have water type Pokemon. Oh, this is the fire gym. Most of the people here are going to have fire type Pokemon. So you'll always have like a tremendous advantage whenever you go into a gym. And this is not something that you can predict when you are fighting somebody else online. So you don't really learn anything. Most of your fights in this game end up being one-shot fests. You're just like, oh, I got to figure out what's the typing that that goes over the typing of this Pokemon that I'm fighting. Oh, it's this thing? Okay, I'm going to bring out this other poke. Bam, one shot, straight up. That's usually what you end up doing throughout most of the fights in the game. So you don't really learn anything. And it would have been great if the campaign actually taught you important things. Like, for instance, a very basic thing that most Pokemon trainers will know that I had no idea. I mean, I kind of had an idea because I've played it in the past and some people have told me about it, but if I was coming in completely fresh, I would have no idea about this. But the difference between attacks and special attacks. Something super simple, but something that is very important for every Pokemon trainer to know. To be able to look at the stats for Pokemon. Okay, this Pokemon has the special attack stat is higher than the attack stat, so I should probably try to focus more on having special attacks on him. And then the moves come in and it's like, oh, would you like to learn this move? Oh, here's the symbol for the special type. Here's the symbol for the actual attack type. The game doesn't teach you any of this. And that's important. That's like one of the main things for min-maxing. The game also doesn't teach you about IVs at all. As a matter of fact, throughout the entirety of the story, I'd never even heard the term IVs being thrown anywhere, which is potentially one of the most important things to prepare you for competitive Pokemon is to know about your Pokemon IVs. Or the importance of breathing. Like they're just like, oh, here's a nursery. You can leave your Pokemon here. That's their extent of the tutorial. I'm just like, what the hell? You should be teaching people this stuff. This is the important things that people need to know. Like in the progress of the campaign, they should teach you how to actually make a perfect IV Pokemon so that you know what the process is, so that when you get to the end game, you know how that stuff works. If the campaign is supposed to just be a tutorial and nothing else meaningful, that would be one of the most important things to teach new trainers. And I just don't understand how that is not even mentioned throughout the 45 hours of campaign that I've played. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And then the other thing that I found extremely frustrating for me is that the game hasn't evolved. Like if you've played Pokemon X and Y or Pokemon Omega Ruby, this is pretty much the same thing, except it's got Dynamax. And you guys are like, oh yeah, but what about Dynamax, man? Dynamax completely changes everything. And it's like, well, yeah, you can superpower your Pokemon for like 3 turns, and it's fun to see them all big and see the different moves. And the animations are actually really good in those moves, as opposed to like, say, for instance, this animation, which I know that a lot of people seem to be upset about the double kick animation. I'm like, dude, double kick ain't got nothing on this, okay? This, to me, is like the word. Your Pokemon barely even animates, just like jumps backwards into a pool of mud and it forms a wave. What is he cannonballing the pool of mud? And then, and there's a bunch more animations that are super disappointing. But like when you Dynamax, the animations are really cool looking and they're amazing and all of that stuff. And it's fun to see your Pokemon all big with these new animations with different moves and all of that. But ultimately, when you're playing the single portion of the game, all of this is pointless because you always know 100% of the time your opponents are only going to use the Dynamax mode in their last Pokemon. So basically, you're just going to plan to use your Dynamax at the same time as they do so that you can counter their Dynamax and you win. Now, I understand that in PvP, this is probably going to be different. I haven't really played competitive, like I said. That's why this is not a review. This is just my thoughts on what I've played of the game so far. So it can make a significant difference. It can be like a real tactical option when you Dynamax versus when your opponent Dynamax, but I just don't know. And now we should talk about the Wild Zone, because to me, the Wild Zone is probably the coolest aspect of the whole game. So this is a zone where you can catch Pokemon, you can do co-op Dynamax raids with other players, and generally just have a good time. This is where the game is at its best, because it just lets you do what players like to do. You can just go out, catch Pokemon, do the Dynamax raids, increase your collection, fill out your Pokedex, and have a good time. And this game, I'm not sure if this is the first time that they're doing online co-op, and I know that a lot of people have a lot of criticism in regards to online co-op, that it doesn't work all that well. It's a little bit archaic with the trading system, with the numbers. Like, there's literally a friend list in the console. Why are we doing these 4 code numbers for trading? Like, I just don't understand. Just like, look, just go into my friend list. Bam, there it is. I want to trade with Kegrin. He's right there, my friends list. Just let me trade with him, okay? We don't need no codes. I can just hit his name in the friend list. Boom, done. That would be a lot better. But anyway, one of the things that I would like to bring up, because not everything is a negative. While I haven't played that much online, actual online, I have played locally, and I think locally it's actually really well done, because whenever you're playing Pokemon and you happen to go into the Wild Zone, the game automatically connects all players that happen to be in close proximity to the same area, and you can all hang out and do Dynamax raids together. And that whole aspect of it, I actually thought was really cool, because you have to think of it almost like this is a Japanese developer. They're thinking about this in terms of Japan. People are doing their commutes on the trains and all that stuff. People get together on the train. Some people are playing Switch. And if there's 2 players playing Switch in close proximity, they're both playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, which they probably are for like the first 2 or 3 months of the release of the game. They're going to end up doing Dynamax raids together pretty much seamlessly. And I actually like the way that they've implemented that. But, the online itself, not quite as smooth. Again, but I am someone that really likes the local play aspects. I understand I'm probably in the minority there, but it is what it is. Now, one of the things that I would even say about Pokemon Sword and Shield, if they just completely deleted the story, like the entire single-player campaign, delete it, and instead just expand the whole game to be a giant Wild Zone. And it doesn't have to be multiplayer, because I know that I've talked about a lot of the multiplayer features of the Wild Zone. Understand, you can play the Wild Zone all by yourself, okay? You can be completely solo, and the game still works fine if you're not playing the Wild Zone solo. You do not need multiplayer to play the Wild Zone. This is something that you can play completely all by yourself, not mandatory at all, okay? But to me, if they just completely got rid of that entire campaign and just made the whole game a giant Wild Zone, and it became more of like a sandbox type thing, it would have been a much better experience. I think most players would have enjoyed the game tremendously more. I just think that particular type of story and campaign that they're working on, I personally thought it just felt like a completely waste of time. Because at the start of the game, I was having fun. I was like, yeah, it's fun. We're trying to do this. We're going to kill a couple of gyms and all this stuff. But after like the 3rd gym, I'm just like, dude, I'm just going through the motions. I'm just doing this because I have to do this in order to be able to capture stronger Pokemon. I don't even care what happens at this point, because the story is just not grabbing me at all. And to the point where I would even say, dude, players don't even need a tutorial, okay? Because the campaign does a terrible job of being a tutorial. So just like point the players to the nearest wiki and just have like a sandbox-like experience with the full game being a Wild Zone. I think that would have been better. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you got a different idea. Let me know in the comment section below. But I think that would have been preferable to what we got in the game. But that's just one man's opinion. Overall, I feel like I've just been disappointed. Like I said, I'm gonna go into the Wild Zone. I'm gonna play some more. I'm gonna see a little bit of the end game at least. I'm not sure for how long I'm gonna be sticking with it. Because here's the thing, I don't think the game is bad. I don't think the game is bad at all. I was just disappointed that there's a distinct lack of effort from Gamefreak here. Like, you're talking about you're doing a campaign structure equal to everything that you've done before. You're taking absolutely no chances whatsoever. Technically, your game is extremely subpar, both from a sound perspective as well as from a visual perspective. But like I said, like, the art style makes up for a lot of that stuff, but at the same time, your performance should have been way better for the way that your game looks. There's no excuses. This is a franchise that's bigger than Star Wars. There's no excuses that you can come up with. Like, zero, okay? And again, I do hope that people that are enjoying Sword and Shield, dude, continue enjoying it because it is a fun game, particularly the Wild Zone stuff, the Dynamax rate, the min-maxing of your Pokemon team. I think it's good. I think it's a lot of fun, but the campaign, the fact that they don't even explain anything. It's just that they're not even trying because they know that, people are going to buy it because it's Pokemon. And that's I guess, what made me the most disappointed. Now, you guys can tell me how you feel about the game. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope I haven't ruffled too many feathers. But, the way I feel is the way I feel. And I'm not going to sugarcoat my opinion. I've never had and I never will. So, yeah. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Hit the dislike button because I know a lot of you are going to because you're not going to like this opinion. But it is what it is. Comments, feedback, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching. Stay strong. May your shields never break.